He should have died before midnight, and everyone in that house was waiting for it. Raphael Justin. Billionaire, owner of empires, planes, hospitals, tech firms, and half of downtown, Houston was not supposed to walk through his own front door that Christmas night, but he did, and that mistake almost cost him his life. Snow never fell in Houston, but the air was cold enough to bite as his black SUV rolled silently through the gates of his mansion. Lights glowing gold against the dark sky, he had sent his security team home early, told his assistant he would be in New York until the 27th, even turned off his phone, so Lauren would not suspect anything. He wanted to surprise her, flowers in the back seat, a diamond bracelet in his coat pocket, a soft smile already forming on his face. He imagined her laughter, her arms around his neck, the warmth of a peaceful holiday. But the second he stepped inside the marble hallway, the scent of cinnamon candles mixing with pine, something felt wrong. Too quiet to still the grand chandelier glowed, but there were no carols playing, no television noise, no footsteps on the stairs. Then, out of nowhere, Cynthia, the housemaid, rushed toward him, eyes wide, not with joy but terror, before he could speak. Her gloved hand clamped over his mouth, and she whispered, "Do not make a sound if you want to live." His heart slammed against his ribs. He almost pushed her away until he saw tears in her eyes. She dragged him behind the tall velvet curtains near the study, pressing him against the wall, her body shaking. Raphael tried to pull free, but then he heard a voice. Lauren's soft, controlled laughing. Not the warm laugh he loved, but something colder, sharper, calculating. Another male voice responded. Low, confident, impatient. Lauren said, "Midnight is perfect. The dosage has been increasing for weeks. His dizzy spells are stronger now. The doctors will call it heart failure. No one will question it, especially on Christmas morning." Raphael felt the world tilt, the dizzy spells, the headaches, the way his hands sometimes trembled. He had blamed stress, blamed travel, blamed age. But now every symptom formed a pattern, and Lauren continued. "I signed the updated will yesterday. Everything transfers smoothly. Once he is gone, the board already trusts me, and once the press announces the tragic holiday loss, the stock will dip for a day, maybe two, then recover stronger than ever." The man chuckled and asked, "What about the maid?" Lauren replied, "She is invisible like all of them. She sees nothing, hears nothing, and even if she did, who would believe her?" Raphael stopped breathing. Cynthia tightened her grip as footsteps echoed across the marble floor. They were close to close. Raphael could see through a small gap in the curtain Lauren standing near the fireplace wearing the red silk dress he bought her last year, a glass of wine in her hand, smiling, not with love but anticipation. The man beside her was his business partner, Victor Hale, someone he had trusted for 15 years, someone who had toasted to his health just last week. Victor raised his glass and said, "To a new beginning." Lauren touched her glass to his and whispered, "To freedom." Raphael felt something inside him shatter. Not anger, not yet, something deeper. The collapse of certainty, the death of illusion. Cynthia leaned close to his ear and breathed. "Sir, they have been changing your medicine. I saw her replace the capsules twice. I tried to tell the nurse, but she stopped calling me in when the prescriptions arrived. I could not prove it until tonight." Raphael stared at her, disbelief and gratitude mixing in his eyes. Why risk everything? He mouthed silently. Cynthia swallowed and said, "Because my son works in your scholarship program, because you paid for his school when no one else cared, because you are not invisible to me." Footsteps moved toward the hallway. Raphael and Cynthia froze. Lauren's voice floated closer, saying, "I will check the study once more just to be safe." Raphael's pulse pounded so loud he was sure she would hear it. Cynthia gently pulled him toward the side door leading to the servants' corridor. The mansion that once symbolized power now felt like a trap. Every painting, every sculpture, every polished surface hiding betrayal. They slipped down the narrow staircase into darkness, Raphael's mind racing. He had security cameras, but Victor oversaw tech operations. If Victor was involved, then nothing in the system could be trusted. They reached the small laundry room. Cynthia locked the door and whispered, There is a storage exit that leads outside, but the gates are coded and Victor changed the codes this afternoon. Raphael leaned against the wall, breathing hard, realizing how carefully this had been planned. His death would look natural, mourned worldwide. A tragic billionaire lost on Christmas Day. Lauren would cry in public, wear black, accept condolences while inheriting everything. Victor would tighten control of the company, and no one would question the narrative. Raphael looked at his shaking hands and finally understood. The dizziness was not weakness, it was poison. He felt rage begin to replace shock. He had built an empire from nothing, survived hostile takeovers, lawsuits, competitors who tried to destroy him, yet the true threat slept beside him every night. Cynthia checked her phone, whispering, I recorded part of their conversation earlier. But if they find out, they will come after me and my son. Raphael straightened his posture. Billionaire instincts returning even in crisis. Then we do not run, he whispered. We survive long enough to expose them. Above them, footsteps echoed again. Lauren's voice calling. Raphael, as if searching concern, pretending already rehearsing her widow. Performance. The sound made his stomach twist. Cynthia, eyes filled with fear. They think you are not here yet, she said. If they find your car. Raphael realized the SUV outside was still parked in plain sight. Victor would notice immediately. He cursed under his breath, thinking fast. We need proof, more than a recording. We need the pills, the documents, something undeniable. Cynthia nodded, saying the medicine cabinet upstairs in the master bathroom. Lauren keeps the new capsules in a gold container, separate from the originals. Raphael knew that container, a gift from a charity gala. The irony bitter. They moved silently through the servant hallway toward the hidden staircase leading closer to the bedroom. Every step felt like walking through enemy territory because it was Raphael Justin, billionaire. Husband, respected leader, was now prey in his own home and upstairs. Lauren's laugh rang again, light, careless, confident, unaware that the man she planned to bury before dawn was listening, breathing, and no longer blind. Raphael Justin had closed billion-dollar deals in rooms filled with sharks, but nothing compared to climbing the hidden staircase of his own mansion, knowing the woman he loved was planning his funeral before midnight. Every shadow looked alive. Every creak of wood sounded like betrayal. Cynthia moved ahead of him, light on her feet, guiding him through passages only staff truly new passages built for privacy now turned into survival routes. The house that once felt grand now felt suffocating. Raphael's mind replayed every dizzy spell, every blurred morning, every time Lauren insisted he rest while she handled meetings. Victor had been present in nearly all of them, offering calm advice, steering board votes, subtly shifting power. While Raphael's health declined, it was perfect timing, perfect execution, and Raphael had been blind. Cynthia stopped at the edge of the hallway leading to the master suite and whispered, they are in the downstairs lounge. I saw them carry wine there. We have minutes. Maybe less. Raphael nodded and stepped forward, each stride careful, controlled. Inside the bedroom, everything looked untouched. Pristine white sheets, neatly folded, a faint scent of Lauren's perfume lingering in the air, as if innocence still lived. Here, Raphael walked to the bathroom and opened the mirrored cabinet, his hand steady despite the storm in his chest. There it was, the gold container shining under soft light. He unscrewed the lid and found capsules identical to his prescription, but slightly darker in shade. Cynthia pulled out her phone, recording as Raphael carefully placed 2 capsules into a tissue and slipped them into his pocket. This is proof, he whispered. But we need more. He searched the drawers until he found a sealed MDCL pharmacy bag hidden beneath folded towels. The label had been scratched, but not completely removed enough to see a different dosage, different chemical composition. His breath tightened. This was deliberate, systematic murder disguised as care. Cynthia suddenly froze, hearing footsteps approach. Voices drifted closer. Lauren speaking softly, saying, I still cannot believe how easy it was, Victor responded. People see what they expect to see. He trusted you. That was his weakness. Raphael felt something colder than rage settle inside him. Clarity. He signaled Cynthia toward the balcony doors. They stepped outside into the cold Houston night air, hiding behind thick curtains as Lauren and Victor entered the bedroom. Raphael could hear fabric rustling. Glasses clinking, Lauren walked into the bathroom. Seconds later, silence, then confusion. Her voice sharpened. "Victor, the container is lighter," Victor answered calmly. "Maybe he took them earlier," Lauren replied. "No, I counted them this morning. I always count them." Raphael felt his pulse quicken. They knew. Lauren stepped onto the balcony, suddenly pushing the curtain aside. Raphael and Cynthia crouched low, hidden by darkness. Lauren scanned the yard, suspicious, then stepped back inside, closing the door. Her voice trembled slightly. "Do you think he came home?" Victor paused, then said his flight was scheduled for tomorrow, but even if he did, he would already be unconscious by now. Raphael heard the arrogance in that sentence and made a decision. He would not be hunted like prey. He pulled out his phone, but there was no signal. Victor must have activated the jammer. Raphael remembered installing for high-level private meetings. The irony almost made him laugh, trapped by his own security system. Cynthia whispered, "There is one place, the panic room. It has independent communication lines." Raphael's eyes widened. The panic room had been built years ago. Only he and his chief of security knew the access code. Lauren had never cared about its details, dismissing it as paranoia. If they could reach it, they could call outside authorities directly. They slipped back through the servants' stairs. Moving quickly now, because suspicion was growing behind them, Lauren's voice echoed louder, searching, calling his name with fake concern. Raphael entered the library and approached the large oil painting of a sailing ship, pressing a hidden latch. The wall clicked open, revealing a narrow steel door. He entered the code, fingers flying over numbers engraved. In his memory, the door opened just as footsteps thundered down the hall, Victor shouting, "Check the garage." "The car is here," Lauren, voice rising with panic. "He is inside the house. I know it." Raphael and Cynthia slipped into the panic room and sealed the door seconds before Victor entered the library. Silence filled the secure chamber. Screens flickered to life, showing security feeds. Victor and Lauren searching aggressively, no longer pretending. Lauren's face twisted with fury, not fear. Raphael watched as Victor pulled out his phone, calling someone. Raphael activated the secure line, contacting the one person outside. Victor's influence, Daniel Reeves, his longtime attorney and former federal prosecutor. Daniel answered. Groggy, Raphael said. 3 words, "I am being killed." Silence. Then Daniel's sharp voice responded. "Tell me everything," Raphael explained quickly, about the pills, the recording, the altered prescription. Daniel did not hesitate. "Stay where you are. I am contacting federal authorities. And a toxicology team. Do not confront them alone." Raphael looked at the screens as Lauren began crying theatrically while dialing emergency services, pretending she had just discovered his car and feared something terrible. Victor paced, calculating options, unaware that Raphael was watching every move. Minutes felt like hours until sirens finally echoed faintly in the distance. Lauren froze. Victor's eyes narrowed, realizing this was not part of their script. Lauren whispered, "Did you call them?" Victor replied, "No." Then who? Raphael stepped out of the panic room door, opening with a metallic echo through the library. Lauren spun around, her face draining of color. Raphael stood there, no longer confused, no longer weak, but steady, alive. Lauren dropped her phone, whispering, "Raphael, you scared me. Where have you been?" He walked toward her, slowly pulling the capsules from his pocket and placing them on the table. "I was about to ask you the same question." Victor tried to maintain composure, saying, "This is a misunderstanding." Raphael cut him off. "Save it. I heard everything." Lauren, tears began falling, but they were different now. Not performance, but fear. Realization dawned that the prey had become witness. Sirens grew louder, lights flashing. Through the windows, Victor made a sudden move toward the exit, but armed federal agents entered from the front doors. Weapons raised, ordering everyone to freeze. Lauren collapsed into a chair, whispering, "This was supposed to be perfect." Raphael looked at her with a pain deeper than anger and said it almost was. "Agents secured." Victor and Lauren reading their rights as evidence teams swept through the house. Cynthia stood quietly near the doorway, trembling, but safe. Raphael walked to her and said, "You saved my life, and tonight the world will know it," Lauren screamed as she was led away, blaming Victor, blaming pressure, blaming everything except herself. Victor remained silent, calculating even now. But Raphael understood something chilling as he watched them taken away. This was not just greed, this was long-planned corporate takeover, and they were not the only ones involved. Somewhere beyond this house, someone else had expected him to die before midnight, and as snowless cold winds swept across Houston, Raphael realized the night was not over yet. Raphael Justin thought the nightmare ended when the handcuffs clicked around Lauren's wrists and Victor Hale was pushed into the back of a federal vehicle. But real betrayal is never that simple, and power rarely moves alone. The mansion was flooded, with agents flashing lights cutting through the Christmas decorations that now looked like props in a twisted play. Raphael stood in the center of his marble floor, watching forensic teams collect the capsules, the altered prescriptions, the wine. Glasses, fingerprints everywhere. Proof of calculated murder. Cynthia sat wrapped in a blanket near the staircase, shaking not from cold but from the weight of what almost happened. Daniel Reeves arrived within the hour, his expression sharp and controlled, assuring Raphael that federal charges would stick: attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, corporate manipulation. But as Raphael listened, something felt unfinished. Victor had too much confidence earlier, too much certainty that everything would fall into place. Even if Lauren faltered, that kind of certainty comes from backup, not from hope. Raphael asked agents to bring Victor to the library for one brief supervised conversation. Victor entered, hands cuffed, yet posture still arrogant. He looked at Raphael and smiled faintly. "You really think this ends with me?" Raphael felt no fear now, only clarity. "Then enlighten me." Victor leaned forward, voice low. "The board voted yesterday, emergency succession documents signed digitally before midnight. Your signature already processed." Raphael froze. That was impossible. He had signed nothing, Victor continued. "You forget who manages your digital authentication system? You were declared temporarily incapacitated due to health concerns Lauren provided. Medical affidavits. Your shares were placed into executive trust control, which defaults to majority board decision in crisis. They needed you dead to make it permanent, but legally by sunrise you are already replaced." Raphael felt the air thin around him. Daniel immediately stepped forward, demanding documentation. Agents confirmed emails were sent. Board members notified, media drafts prepared announcing health emergency, not death, but removal from active leadership. Victor smiled wider. "Even if I rot in prison, the company moves on. The machine does not need you anymore." Raphael realized the poison was not just physical, it was strategic. He had built systems for efficiency, for protection, for growth, but those same systems allowed manipulation. If trust was corrupted, Lauren was only one piece, Victor another, but the board had silently cooperated, motivated by stock surges promised under new leadership. Greed had spread like infection. Raphael stepped back, thinking fast. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed softly. Victor frowned, confused. Raphael looked at Daniel and said, "Initiate Clause 13 of the Founder Covenant." Daniel's eyes widened, understanding instantly. Clause 13 was a rarely discussed provision buried in original corporate bylaws written by Raphael himself years ago when he still feared betrayal. It stated that if a majority board acted during a verified medical crisis initiated by fraudulent evidence, all shares under executive trust would automatically transfer into blind philanthropic control, pending federal investigation, effectively freezing all board authority. Victor Faye's lost color. That clause was never activated. Raphael replied, "It activates when I say the words, 'Founder breach confirmed.'" And I just did. Daniel's phone was already moving, contacting compliance officers, triggering encrypted protocols. Within minutes, alerts spread across corporate networks. Trading halted, accounts frozen, executive access denied. Board members across the city began calling in panic as their power dissolved with a single hidden sentence Raphael had written long ago. Agents received confirmation. The succession vote was legally void due to fraud and conspiracy the machine Victor bragged about had. Just shut down, Victor lunged forward in fury but was restrained, shouting, "You think this saves you? There are investors beyond this country who will not accept this." Raphael stepped closer, eyes steady. "Let them come. I survived the people in my own bed. I can survive the rest." Lauren was brought in briefly to witness the unfolding collapse of her plan. She stared at Raphael's disbelief, replacing rage. "You always underestimated me," she whispered. Raphael answered quietly, "No, I overestimated love. That was my mistake." Dawn began to lighten the Houston sky. Christmas morning, silent and surreal news. Helicopters hovered as reports shifted from tragic health scare to explosive conspiracy. Federal authorities announced arrests pending investigation into corporate fraud and attempted murder. Cynthia stood beside Raphael, watching reporters gather. She asked softly, "What happens now?" Raphael looked at the mansion, no longer feeling pride in its walls, but seeing clearly the fragility of power built without vigilance. Now, he said, "We rebuild differently." By noon, the board members were being questioned, assets frozen, international investors notified of internal corruption. Stocks initially plummeted, then stabilized when news spread that Raphael was alive and had uncovered the conspiracy. Public sympathy surged. Markets reacted not with panic but confidence in his decisive response. The very crisis meant to erase him strengthened his reputation globally. But Raphael felt no triumph, only awakening. That night had stripped illusions, burned naivety from his heart. He turned to Cynthia and handed her a folder. Inside were documents establishing a full scholarship foundation under her son's name, funded by a significant share of his personal wealth. She looked at him, stunned. "Sir, I only did what was right." Raphael nodded. "And that is why you will help me lead it." The cameras captured an image no one expected: Billionaire and Maid standing side by side, not as master and servant, but as survivors of betrayal. As Lauren and Victor were driven away facing life-altering charges, they realized their greatest miscalculation was not the poison, not the forged signatures, not the timing. It was underestimating the man they thought was already dying. Raphael Justin had been counting his dizzy spells, thinking they were signs of weakness, but in truth they were warnings, forcing him to see the cracks around him. Christmas night was meant to be his silent execution. Instead, it became his resurrection. And as church bells rang faintly across Houston, welcoming morning, Raphael understood something powerful. Wealth can build walls, but only truth builds survival. Those who plotted in darkness believed midnight was his ending. They never expected him to step into the light before dawn.